This research project is going to outline and provide sufficient evidence to back up that individuals who exercise at a moderate level for 210 minutes per week have perceived better sleep. It has been heavily backed up by extensive research from multiple countries and universities that students who exercise for at least 30 minutes per day and are in good physical condition get to sleep quicker and have a higher quality sleep than those who do not. Furthermore, recent research has shown that university students participating in an average of 3 hours of intense exercise per week are more likely to experience an influence in all elements of sleep quality, as opposed to university students who do not. This includes the quality of sleep as well as the duration. Potential gaps in research have come from the lack of evidence relating to the intensity of exercises, as most of the research focuses on the duration of physical activity. In addition, only few studies have been medically tested using an electroencephalogram, which measures electrical activity in the brain using electrodes. A study mainly focuses on university students around the age of approximately 18 to 25 years, whereas other research that has been conducted looked at a wider age group such as 19 to 44 years of age. Throughout this project, there will be evidence of cross-sectional studies to accommodate the relationships that exist between exercise and sleep quality. This study design was chosen to accommodate both the strengths and limitations that the research may encounter. Furthermore, this study will incorporate both qualitative and quantitative research methods. The qualitative data will include questionnaires and semi-structured interviews conducted with James Cook University students. Questionnaires were provided to a variety of allied health professional students, including disciplines occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and speech therapy, enrolled in the subject HS3401 and 2405. Where they will be required to outline their sleep patterns and duration per week and minutes of exercise per week. The quantitative data will outline the total number of hours a university student exercises and sleeps per week. The purpose of this project is to understand how university students are impacted by the lack of sleep and to see if an increase in exercise increases and improves sleep. This research will not only benefit allied healthcare students but university students collectively. The purpose of this research project is to identify the role of moderate exercise, 210 minutes per week, has on university students' quantity and perception of sleep. The null hypothesis includes decreased frequency of exercise does not impact the duration of sleep of James Cook University allied health students. Alternative hypothesis includes decreased frequency of exercise will decrease the duration of sleep of James Cook University allied health students.
This study adopted a mixed methods concurrent study approach as it allowed the research group to study phenomenon utilizing both qualitative and quantitative data gathered separately and simultaneously, which is synthesized by the group. For this mixed method approach, the study design adopted by the research group is a cross-sectional study which enables researchers to analyze an exposure and an outcome at the same point in time. To conduct this study, university students at James Cook University, Townsville campus, aged 18 years and above, enrolled in HS3401 were recruited. This was achieved by creating an online survey consisting of 6 questions and posting an advertisement on the subject discussion board and within class workshops. Along with this advertisement was the option to join a focus group for the qualitative component for the project. For the quantitative component of the project, the results from the online survey were produced and required recoding cleaning before being able to be correctly utilized in the SPS statistical testing. For the qualitative component of the project, 4 participants attended a 45-minute focus group where one project member asked the participant 5 questions and one project member recorded the data with consent from all participants. This data collection method was chosen as it focuses on the participants' attitudes, beliefs, and allowed the research group to gain a deep understanding of their perception on the relationship between sleep and exercise. These questions expanded on those asked in the online survey to ensure triangulation within the quantitative data was achieved. To complete the descriptive analysis and complete accurate statistical testing, variables were comprised from the questions asked within the survey, which led to produce the results for the overarching aim. The first question examined what is the relationship between exercise and sleep, consisting of 2 variables. Variable 1, how many minutes do you exercise per day and how many days a week do you exercise? Variable 2, how well do you feel you sleep on a scale from 1 to 10? From this, a Shapiro-Wilks test was conducted and the data was shown to not be normally distributed. Due to the data being non-parametric, Mann-Whitney U test was chosen. The second question examined what is prevalence of moderate exercise and sleep duration per night in university students. The first variable was how many days a week do you exercise? Variable 2, how many hours do you sleep per night? The variables were recoded to become categorical nominal in order to carry out the appropriate statistical test. Variable 2 was recoded into poor sleep, consisting from 4 to 5, 5 to 6 hours into 0, and good sleep, consisted of 7 to 8 and 8 plus into 1. Due to the nature of the variables, the logical test selection was the chi-squared test for trend. The qualitative data was analyzed using thematic analysis to address the overall research question, aim, and hypothesis. Thematic analysis is a method used to ensure qualitative data is analyzed in a rigorous and methodical manner to yield meaningful and useful results. The analysis was completed in 6 phases, including becoming familiar with the data, generating initial codes, searching for themes within the data, reviewing themes, defining and naming themes, and finally producing the report. Voluntary participation is described as the research subject's ability to exercise free will concerning involvement in a selected study, and it is essential to ensure that this is ethically sound. To establish voluntary participation in the study's quantitative data collection segment, investigators created an online survey. This allowed participants' engagement to be completely volitional and completely anonymous. The survey also described the study's purpose and disclosed what the collected data would be used for, thus allowing participants to decide if they wished to proceed, maintaining informed consent. This created a study design that mitigated judgment that could have potentially skewed the responses and conserved voluntary participation requirements. Voluntary participation in qualitative data collection corners on gaining information and consent from participants. Informed consent is key as participants need all relevant information to fully understand what is expected of them in the study, thus allowing them to make an informed decision regarding their involvement. Participants then need to be asked if they understand and are happy to proceed. From the 120 eligible students enrolled in HS3401/HS2405, 38 students participated in the quantitative study. The median reported age category was 18 to 20 years old, 79% being female and 21% being male. Out of 38 respondents, the average amount of days participants exercised was 5.43 out of 7 days a week. Furthermore, the mean number of minutes participants exercised per week was 49.08, and the median hours of sleep per week was 7. The perceived quality of sleep was categorized on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being poor and 10 being excellent sleep, and the average score recorded was 6.33. Question 1. What is the prevalence of moderate exercise and sleep duration per night in university students? The two variables were labeled in order to correctly carry out statistical tests to produce results on the relationship between them. The first variable, the number of minutes exercised a week, was labeled numerical continuous, and the second variable was hours of sleep per night, which was recoded from 4 to 6 hours into 0 and 7 plus hours into 1 and labeled categorical. The test for normality was conducted and produced significant results within the Shapiro-Wilks test, thus concluded the data was not normally distributed. The Mann-Whitney-U test was decided to be the appropriate test due to the non-parametric data. The results showed that the impact of minutes exercised weekly cannot be concluded to affect the perceived rate of sleep. The table below shows the mean medians of both variables as well as the p-values from the relating statistical tests. Question 2. What is the relationship between exercise and sleep? To determine if there was a relationship between the number of days exercise and a participant's perceived rate of sleep, a chi-squared test for trend was conducted. Rating of perceived sleep was recoded into good sleep, 6 to 10 equals 1, and then poor sleep, 0 to 5 equals 0. The following table displays the cross-tabulation between the two variables. The resulting p-value for the chi-squared test was 0.784. These results show that it cannot be concluded that the number of days exercise has significant impact on the perceived rate of sleep within university students. Moving on to the qualitative data. To ensure rigor throughout this process, each stage of the analysis was documented to ensure transparency of the analysis method, development of the themes, and to provide a clear trail from the original data to the final themes. The findings of this study focused on the participants' shared views and perceptions of the effects of exercise and the quality of their sleep. We identified 4 major themes that represent the participants' perceptions. Exercise has a positive effect on sleep. Increased sleep has a positive effect on exercise performance. Increased positive social engagement and self-accomplishment, and time restrictions associated with exercise. A common response received from all participants was that they perceived they had better sleep when completing a minimum of 1 hour session of moderate exercise 5 times per week. With improved sleep, participants reported increased academic performance and motivation to complete everyday activities. Participants reported that most of them experienced an increased rate of performance when exercising, when they had perceived adequate sleep. Participants reported lack of motivation for everyday tasks and exercise when they had perceived poor sleep. All participants reported that the exercise was a positive way to socialize with friends. Most participants reported that completing exercise was a way for them to set goals for themselves and gain a feeling of self-accomplishment once they had completed a session of moderate exercise. All participants reported time restraints due to work or university commitments, which restricted their participation in exercise. Students also reported that when university exams assessments due dates were upcoming, that this affected the time they would perform moderate exercise and how this time would decrease. The following tables display the influences for exercise and barriers and enablers for exercise. Some of the positive influences were identified for good for general health and well-being, social engagement, a sense of accomplishment, exercise improves quality of sleep, and increased academic performance. The negative, restricted time due to work and university commitments. The barriers and enablers: work commitments, university commitment, no motivation, and enablers: knowledge on health and well-being benefits, social engagement, and sense of accomplishment. Within this section, the quantitative and qualitative data that was found from the sample will be explained with links to the hypothesis and relevant literature. At the beginning of the research proposal, a hypothesis was formed based off relevant research about a specific topic. This hypothesis was, a student who exercises moderately throughout the week should have higher quantity of sleep compared to a student who does not exercise. Though literature supports this hypothesis, the quantitative results found no significant conclusion between exercise and its effects on sleep from the sample used. This inconclusiveness can be drawn to the small size of the sample population. Although the study was inconclusive, multiple studies have found that exercise does influence the quality of sleep. A study by Driver and Taylor concluded that exercise increased the total sleep time and slow wave sleep in participants, as well as decreased rapid eye movement sleep. In addition to this, research also found that exercise promoted sleep efficiency and duration regardless of the intensity or duration of the workout completed. This was also reported by Singh et al. That stated that exercise had a positive influence on sleep quality as well as depression and quality of life. Due to this, it can be assumed that students who engage in moderate exercise have a high quality of sleep, although further testing with a larger population would be necessary to conclude this. Based off the qualitative results, it was found that exercise does have a positive influence on sleep and motivation. This is due to exercise releasing endorphins that lower stress and unhappy feelings that make people feel more accomplished and motivated for the rest of the day. Participants also recorded that increased sleep has a positive effect on performance, as when they experience a lack of sleep, they report feeling less motivated to exercise and their performance is decreased. From this, decreased sleep leads to a decrease in the performance of exercise and may make the body feel more worn out and sore. Adding on a lack of sleep can also affect the motivation people have to exercise. It was also noted that the participants felt that there was an increased positive social engagement and a sense of accomplishment. From this, it is found that exercising with friends can be a great social opportunity with positive effects, such as more motivation to work out for a longer period of time and at a harder intensity. Lastly, participants felt that time restrictions due to work and university, especially when leading up to exam periods, made it hard to find the time to exercise. Furthermore, Cunningham reports that it can be hard to schedule time for exercise when outside commitments such as school and or work may be in the way, although he states that it is critical to ensure that exercise is still completed between these. This study design had several strengths and limitations. Varying limitations and barriers were experienced, including being a novice research team, a small data sample, cost restraints, and potential bias within the data. Due to being a novice research team, the group required guidance and supervision throughout the process from the subject coordinators and other team members. The data collected was restricted and limited due to a small sample size within the HS3401 cohort. Additionally, the group had no access to funding, which limited the study design and data collection methods. Due to these cost restraints, data was collected through a self-questionnaire and survey due to the cost and time convenience. However, this data collection method was found to have several limitations, including the accuracy of the information and being flexibility limited. Furthermore, the data collected from the questionnaires and surveys are self-reported. It was found that there are several aspects of bias that accompany self-reported data, and these should be considered during the study. Bias can arise from social desirability, recall period, sampling approach, or selective recall. This can result in fluctuating results and data, which directly affects the validity and reliability of the study design. Additionally, the survey and questionnaires used to collect data were constructed and designed by the project team. This means the questions were not standardized and did not go through a pilot study. Therefore, there may be complications regarding the validity and reliability of the questions. However, although limitations were recorded, several strengths came with the study design. These include the time and cost convenience of collecting data, high level of information, and non-selection bias. A strength of the design was the appropriate selection of a target population to gain the data sample from a demographic that matched with the parameters of the study design. Consequently, the data collection was cost-effective and easy to undertake while allowing various variables to be concurrently examined. This was a strength within the study as the cost restraints acted as a barrier and the data collection method used provided sufficient data. Additionally, the use of surveys and self-questionnaires provided insight and data on key information, including regularity of exercise and quantity and quality of sleep. The results of this study are significant because they can be applied in a practical scenario while speaking with university students during stressful exam times. This research project was written and investigated in order to discover commonalities among university students and their current sleeping routines and trends. Our main emphasis was on the amount of exercise a student gets and the relationship it has with the quality of sleep they get every night. These two factors have been explored because they have the greatest effect on a person's overall health. Sleep can lead to an improvement in the amount of energy required while exercising, and adequate exercise can improve one's sleep and reduce the time it takes to fall asleep. The suggestions that can be learned from this study and from personal experience of gathering and collecting data include expanding on the sample size of those who participated in the survey. Unfortunately, the sample size used did not yield adequate and in-depth results to draw conclusions and prove our overall hypothesis. One way to enhance this would be to give a physical copy of the survey questions to a class in person as part of a lesson outline. This would allow for a larger sample size, which would improve the quality and reliability of the results by providing a wider range of responses, especially for qualitative data. In summary, we were tasked with determining whether James Cook University students who exercise moderately for 210 minutes per week perceive they sleep better than those who do not. According to the findings, students who completed a minimum 1-hour session of moderate exercise 5 days a week slept better. It was also discovered that students improved sleep and had a positive impact on their exercise performance and productivity. Students also mentioned that due to the lack of sleep, they lacked energy and motivation in their daily tasks. These findings are important and can be replicated in a practical classroom setting within university students. If this research project were undertaken again, a larger sample size would need to be more definitive results and more convincing response to the hypothesis.
This research project is going to outline and provide sufficient evidence to back up that individuals who exercise at the moderate level for 210 minutes per week have perceived better sleep. It has been heavily